Greetings, friends, and welcome to worship at Unity Church. Welcome to this time we set aside each week to align our lives more fully to integrity, service, and joy. We stand on the homelands of the Dakota and Ojibwe nations. We honor with gratitude the people who have stewarded the land throughout the generations and their ongoing contributions to this region. We also acknowledge the ongoing injustices that we have committed against the Dakota and Ojibwe nations, and we wish to interrupt this legacy, beginning with acts of healing and honest storytelling about this place. This morning we worship in person and online, a congregation gathered in time rather than in a single space. May we all enter into worship fully, not held back by fear or distraction or the unfamiliarity of new ways. Welcome whatever arises in your spirit during this time we share. If this is your first time attending a service, we invite you to complete a visitor's card available in the pews and online so that we can provide you with more information about our congregational life. Visitors are also invited to attend Finding Yourself at Unity, a conversation each Sunday focused on a different topic about Unity Church. Today, the conversation will explore the worship life of the congregation, including the worship themes, holidays, and other special celebrations. Today, for instance, is National Ice Cream Day. After the service, Nancy and I look forward to greeting those of you present in person and invite you to visit the parish hall for refreshments and fellowship. Those joining us online are invited to Zoom coffee hour. And now, let us enter into worship with the ringing of the bell. Our call to worship this morning is found in the back of your hymnal. It is responsive reading 657, and I will invite those who are able to stand for this, and I invite you also to turn and face the people who are across the aisle from you. We are together in this. Nancy's side of the church will begin, and my side of the church will respond.
Some beliefs are like walled gardens. They encourage exclusiveness and the feeling of being especially privileged.
Other beliefs are anxious and lead the way into wider and deeper sympathies.
Some beliefs are like shadows, clouding children's days with fears of unknown calamities.
Other beliefs are like sunshine, blessing children with the warmth of happiness.
Some beliefs are divisive, separating the saved from the unsaved, friends from enemies.
Other beliefs are bonds in a world community where sincere differences beautify the pattern.
Some beliefs are like blinders, shutting off the power to choose one's own direction.
Other beliefs are like gateways, opening wide vistas for exploration.
Some beliefs weaken a person's selfhood. They blight the growth of resourcefulness.
Other beliefs nurture self-confidence and enrich the feeling of personal worth.
Some beliefs are rigid, like the body of death, impotent in a changing world.
Other beliefs are pliable, like the young sapling, ever growing with the upward thrust of life.
Some beliefs are like gateways, opening wide vistas for exploration. Come, let us worship together.
Please be seated and give yourself permission to fall into silence. Each time we gather for worship, we set aside a moment to expand the caring ministry of this congregation. Together, we recognize the cycle of life and death, the circle of love, compassion, and witness that is at the center of this and every sacred community. We stand at the side of parents and teachers and all those whose primary spiritual practice is caring for children. With those who live with grief or chronic pain, with illnesses seen or unseen, with mental disability or addiction. We pray for our neighbors in prison, those who care for family members in ill health, those who are struggling yet again to stay afloat in the midst of poverty. Our lives are blessed by those who knowingly and with curiosity and courage face their final days, and by those who rise above heartbreak to challenge oppression in all its forms. We pray for those in harm's way, for the leaders of the world, and for the people of this courageous congregation, as together we live into our longing to embody and help to build beloved community. Will you pray with me now for those we name? Alan Volkenant is celebrating the life and mourning the death of his beloved wife of more than 70 years, Diane, who died last Tuesday after years of struggling with several chronic conditions. Diane and Alan were married here at Unity in 1950, raised their 3 children here, and after moving away for many years, came back to spend their later years in this familiar community. A memorial service for Diane is pending. We hold Isaac Freed in our healing prayers for full recovery following gallbladder surgery this coming Wednesday, and prayers that the procedure would finally resolve the recurring pain over this past year. And finally, we send healing thoughts and prayers to our own Bill Lowell, former Unity Church facilities manager, as he begins a long recovery from recent back surgery. He is healing at home with the care of his wife, Donna, and their dog, Mickey. May we stand in compassionate solidarity with our neighbors here at home and all around the world. May they and we be instruments of a just and lasting peace. I now invite you to speak aloud or to hold in the silent sanctuary of your heart the names of those you would like to lift today in worship. And will you pray with me? Be with us, weaving power of community. Hold us steady in the warp of time, stretched between all that has been and all that might be. Cast the shuttle of justice. Cast the shuttle of compassion. Cast the shuttle of equity. Bind us with the bright pattern of right relationship. Be with us, flaming power of truth. Temper us to pure integrity in our hopes and visions. Burn away the dross of prejudice. Burn away the dross of self-righteousness. Burn away the dross of anger. Lighten us with clarity and with charity. Reveal in us, in each and every one of us, the whole and holy energy of sacred purpose dedicated to the good of at-one-ment. Let this be so. Let this be so now. Seated.
Your support of the Church is an expression of the promises we make to each other and to the world. The contributions you make enable us to do the work we have pledged to do within our church community and out in the world. Each Sunday, the majority of our offering is passed on to community partners with whom we share common cause. If you would like to nominate an organization to receive our Sunday offering, please complete the nomination form found on Unity's website. Today, the larger portion of our offering will be shared with Camp Tamarack, a non-denominational overnight summer camp with a mission to give urban youth the opportunity to experience a rural environment and learn positive life lessons. Camp Tamarack provides a first-time camper experience in a safe and fun environment with opportunities to canoe, swim, dance, play games, and build community. This offering will be used to keep camper tuition affordable and assist with scholarships. Will the ushers please come forward? Please give as generously as you can today. We dedicate these offerings and ourselves to the greater work of the church, which is weaving a tapestry of love we call community. As a teen, and for much of my adult life, I hated my body. Along with that came shame, lack of confidence, and a desire to disappear into the woodwork. For years, I hid in hugely oversized and baggy clothing. Clothes were the enemy. Negative body image trickled into everything: how I participated in school, work, and social life, how I expressed my thoughts and opinions, or didn't, and how I showed up in the world. It was a painful way to live. Societal expectations for beauty have been handed down generation to generation since humans formed societies. This is particularly true for people who identify as women, yet it applies to all genders. We are so powerfully enculturated to believe that we have to look a certain way to be beautiful or even acceptable, that we can't see our whole selves. The amazing person gets lost. How we look is the embodiment of our identity. To believe that somehow we aren't measuring up, or even worse, aren't valid as our authentic selves, erodes away our self-worth. Let me paint a picture of how I used to dress. I especially like to wear my dad's shirts. I'm 5'8", and he is 6'4", and wears a men's extra large tall. His shirts literally came down to my knees. I would have physical symptoms of anxiety, a rapid heart rate, and pain in my stomach when I wore shirts tucked in, or when my body showed. In today's responsive reading, these lines particularly resonate with me. Some beliefs weaken a person's selfhood. They blight the growth of resourcefulness. Other beliefs nurture self-confidence and enrich the feeling of personal worth. The beliefs about myself that I used to embody, literally, were toxic to my overall sense of well-being. When you look at pictures of me from that time, you can see the despair in my eyes. You can see my discomfort and my shame in my posture, my forced smile, and my arms crossed over my body. Fast forward to now. For the past 8 years, I have been working as a wardrobe consultant. I help other people to embrace their bodies and to wear clothes that express their authentic, fantastic selves. This includes non-binary and transgender people. If anything, for them, it is even more essential for the outside to reflect the inside in an authentic way. Clothes are a powerful tool to accomplish that. When I began my journey of repairing my self-beliefs around my body, clothes played an essential role in my growth, and never would I have imagined where it would lead me. My daughter Grace, who is 18 now, is who spurred me to do the work that I needed to do. She was a toddler at the time, and I realized that if I didn't want to perpetuate a culture of negative body image with her, I had to actually embody what I was saying. In 2012, I decided to grow my personal experience into the work that I do. In the same year, social psychologist Adam Galinsky, now of Columbia University, coined the phrase enclothed cognition. Enclothed cognition captures the systemic influence that clothes have on the wearer's psychological processes, meaning that what you wear impacts how you feel. It's a part of a larger field of research that examines how humans think with both their brains and their bodies, an area of study known as embodied cognition. We can shift how we feel about ourselves with what we wear. I had experienced it firsthand without having words for it. And let me tell you, it is so freeing to let go of hating your body. We each only have our one body. It is the vessel for who we are and should be cherished despite our perceived flaws, because they are perceived. Our self-beliefs permeate us and drive our emotions and our actions. And when we truly love ourselves, it allows us to grow fully into our whole selves. And it allows us to do the work we are called to do in this world.
In the interests of full disclosure, let me be clear that I am not going to be telling you anything this morning that you do not already know. The purpose of a sermon is never to reveal some hitherto unknown truth. Our purpose together is to remember, to know what we know, rather than to pretend we don't know it. So, in the words of our responsive reading, Sophia Lyon-Fahs reminds us that beliefs matter. Not the ones we talk about, but the ones we actually live. That living, that incarnation, that embodied cognition, is the story we show about who we are as bodies, minds, hearts, and souls shaped by our beliefs. Living a belief that demeans or diminishes or oppresses ourselves or someone else matters, as Nancy spoke about in her reflection. Living the conviction that my beliefs trump your beliefs matters. And sometimes, like right this minute, in our cities and towns, in our country, in our boards of education, our police departments, our courts, even our churches, we find ourselves, our well-educated, justice-loving, non-binary and cisgender selves, embodying shadowed beliefs without paying attention to how we got here. Our theme for July is growth and repair, which are both aspects of change. And change is one of the stimuli that can tempt us to shift our beliefs from inclusive to exclusive. Change can feel overwhelming, and when we are overwhelmed or anxious, our instinct is not to expand our focus or our heart, but to narrow it. We already know this is not going to help. But it is easier in the short term to slide into habits of being highly reactive, of hurting with like-minded folks, of blaming anyone or anything we cannot change, which is anything or anyone beyond ourselves, and to sabotage any system we are in. Listening to the January 6th hearings could not be a more perfect example of how this behavior manifested and continues to manifest in ever more intense ways. And let's remember that when we, like the Pharisee in the temple, thank God that we are not like other people, we are manifesting it too. Just saying. The repair piece of growth and repair can be particularly fraught because when something about us needs repair, whether a broken bone, a surgical wound, a relationship, we are usually highly aware that we corporately and we individually are not functioning optimally. And we don't like the feeling of being vulnerable or imperfect or unsafe. As a world, we know we are lying to ourselves when we claim to want peace and justice while choosing violence, anger, and hostility. And as a congregation, we know that while we have grown in many healthy and fruitful ways with our last settled and interim minister's guidance, even healthy, fruitful growth does not produce the anxiety-free existence of being clones. Nor does it produce unwavering self-differentiation or a bright and shiny, beloved community that we never need to work on again. We know what we know, including how to treat one another as we want to be treated, and that loving our enemies is an imperative, not an option. This is the point at which we may want to slide right through the humbling practice of apologizing, the time-consuming practice of listening, and the self-regulating practice of deep reflection, and jump to the cure of niceness theology, which is the belief that if we can pretend to be friends well enough, no one will catch on to the fact that we aren't actually speaking to one another. This allows us to tell ourselves that we are practicing tolerance while we are actually grinding our teeth down to little stubs. Well, my 70-year longitudinal study allows me to definitively report that niceness works long-term exactly 0% of the time. Amen. Then what? What do we do? Let's face it, we are living in an anxious time all around. I read the news, and anxiety wraps me in its tendrils with the enthusiasm of a boa constrictor until I suffocate. I stop reading the news, and I start to hyperventilate because I know something is happening that I probably need to prepare for, but how will I prepare if I don't know what it is? Relationships fray as we all become more defensive and retreat to our reptilian brain, which screams, flee, fight, freeze. Because I want to save those relationships, I release my control freak, who insists that everyone around me recognize that it is now time to panic, all together in a herd like lemmings. We know that this also does not heal or repair. Almost 20 years ago now, I was able to take one of the last classes that Peter Steinke taught in person. Now, for you that don't know him, Steinke was a student of Edwin Friedman, who took Friedman's work on family systems and applied it to churches. There were about a dozen ministers of various denominations in the class. And partway through day 2 of a 5-day workshop, we began to look at the essential minister-saving, congregation-saving, indeed life-saving practice of non-anxious presence, which is the opposite of lemming mind. One of my colleagues listened for an hour or two and then observed, "You keep talking about being a non-anxious presence, but you haven't told us how to do that." Peter Steinke responded, "Oh, the how is easy. You put yourself in an anxious situation, you stay present, and you practice." The colleague said, "Yes, but how do I do that?" And Steinke said, "The only way to be non-anxious and present is to be in an anxious situation and respond by remaining present without anxiety." By the 4th time through versions of that same question and answer, my colleague's anxiety was off the charts. He stood up, stuffed all his papers into his briefcase, announced to Peter, "This is pointless. You will not answer a simple question. I refuse to waste any more time," and left the workshop, thus perfectly demonstrating anxious non-presence. Friedman's and Steinke's work is so helpful because churches, like families, are by definition breeding grounds of anxiety. They are the places we bring our largest hopes, our deepest wounds, our most provoking questions, our uncertainty, and our potential. It is not coincidence, then, that this also makes them the places that provide the greatest opportunity for healing, for growth, for self-differentiation, for transformation, and for miracle. And we get to choose every day, whether we live the story about being a petri dish of undifferentiated anxiety, or the story about resilient sanctuaries of belovedness. We get to choose whether to practice being a non-anxious presence or an anxious non-presence. We embody our beliefs in lament or in a song of praise. We embody being irrevocably broken, or we allow our cracks and wounds to be openings to more love, thus embodying growth and repair. We know this is our choice to make. Because our life is what happens while we're living the mistakes and acting out of new wisdom, practicing less conditional love, breathing through anxiety, sitting with ambiguity and uncertainty, engaging in conflict, forgiving our enemies. There isn't a goal we reach after we accomplish all those things, a goal that is our real life when our real beliefs come to the fore. This is it. Right here, right now. Our real beliefs are the ones we put on the ground in real time. Today, and again tomorrow, and the next day, for a whole lifetime. That's how long our life takes. A lifetime. 20 years ago, Peter Steinke was reminding me and my colleagues there is no one-size-fits-all checklist for any fix. And no fix, quick or slow, is going to last forever. It is in the nature of temporal existence for things, for people, for systems to break and need repair. But the repair that is needed depends on the particular instance. Using chemotherapy on a broken bone is worse than useless. We can only practice being non-anxious when we are in the specific anxiety that we are experiencing. So given that, who do we each want to be? And who do we want to be together in the midst of this conflict and anxiety among ourselves and beyond our doors? I will only remind you of what we all know. We have our shared purposes and principles and our own congregation's end statements. An unexpected outcome in our life together has made us aware that we have different opinions. This is not a crisis. It is simply another opportunity to practice those purposes and principles. The unexpected always provides an opportunity to be anxious. But an anxious system is not a foregone conclusion. Let me say that again. Being in an anxious crisis after a difference of opinion is not a foregone conclusion. It is a choice. It is a choice here at Unity. It is a choice in the world, in the country, in the state, in our neighborhoods. We already know we have the power to make this choice. Musician Angelo Testi writes this: so long as human beings change and make history, as long as children are born and old people die, there will be tales to explain why sorrow darkens the day and stars fill the night. We invent stories about the origin and conclusion of life because we are exiles in the middle of time. The void surrounds us. We live within parentheses surrounded by question marks. Our stories and myths don't dispel ignorance, but they help us find our way and our place at the heart of the mystery. In the end, as in the beginning, there will be a vast silence, broken by the sound of one person telling a story to another. What is the master story we want to live during our temporal exile in the midst of time? What story is big enough to hold us through growth and repair, and more growth and repair, through the temptation to be anxious and the practice of becoming less so, through beginnings and endings? What are the stories about sorrow and stars we are choosing to live? Do they allow us and all of those around us to flourish in expansive liberation? Or do they trap us in the prison of insular safety? Whether we're aware of it or not, we are each living a story about this congregation, this community that we believe we are seeking to make beloved community, and a story about the larger world in which this beloved community has, does, and will exist. You are in my story just as I am in yours. Whether I see you matters. How I listen to you matters, because those are skills I will take into every other relationship in my life. Sophia Lyon-Fahs wrote that our beliefs matter. Indeed, they do. So we would be wise to make intentional, non-anxious choices about what we are embodying. Because let me say it again, the beliefs we embody are the only beliefs that matter. Here with you. Outside these doors with people who may not like me. Now, in the midst of disagreement and fear, with all my, with all your, with all their flaws and concerns and wounds and hopes. This is when we know what we know, or we ignore it. Here and now is the place I get to practice. Today, in this space with you. Maybe I would prefer some other place or some other time. Maybe I think it would be easier with some other companions. But what I have is here and now. We are it. Because if not with one another, with whom? If not here, where? If not now, when? Namaste. As we go forth into the world this week, may peace be in our hearts. May compassion fill our spirits. May wisdom wrap our souls. May courage be our companion. May we reach out rather than shut out. May we befriend rather than belittle. May we understand rather than undermine. May the world be better for our thoughts. May the world be better for our words. May the world be better for our actions. May this be so now. May this be so tomorrow. May this be so until the end of time. Peace.